John Torrington was 20 years old.
Yeah, he was young.
Very young. And he had died, I think it was like in August. No, that's when they found them. But I know he died about 4 or 5 months before the other two men. And the other two men died within like 2 days of each other.
Right, back to back.
Yeah, right back to back. Once they thawed him all out, he wasn't stiff. Like when they lifted him out of the coffin, he was like moving.
Ugh.
Like he had flexibility.
He had no rigor mortis.
Right. I mean, but he was just like a corpse.
Yeah.
Like, you see mummies, they're stiff because they're dry.
Dried up.
They're dried up. And I mean, there is some, when you freeze something, some of the liquid does evaporate out of it. But like his body weighed 88 pounds. And they said that some of that is due to water
fluid
loss through being frozen. They said, but he was emaciated. Like, they said when they did an autopsy on him, he had no fat in his body. None. Like, he is, like, starved to death. Like, they said he was very ill at the time of his death. He had no food in his stomach or anything in his intestines.
Wow.
There was nothing. And he had no calluses on his hand, and his fingernails were clean. So you're talking like like he's like a sailor.
Yeah.
And his job was loading the coal.
Why was his hands clean?
So why? Because he'd been sick for that long.
Oh, so he hadn't been doing anything.
This proves that he was ill. Like,
for a long time.
He was ill for a while to the point where his hands.
He was bedridden.
He had no calluses on his hands. So like that
takes a while for those to go away.
They have calluses.
Yeah.
Ropes and like just doing their work.
Yeah.
And this kid had none. Because he was 20.
Yeah.
It's just like
we're
terrible.
old, but yeah.
On the second expedition back, because they had actually dug into John Hartnell's grave, but they couldn't they got down to his coffin and they started to thaw him out, and then they were like, we're not going to have time to perform a full autopsy, so they just kind of covered him back up. There's one of the men who went on the expedition with Beattie. And this first one, it was like when he was going around finding artifacts on Prince William Island, it was just like 4 of them. It was just 4 men on this trek. And watching this, I like to watch I read the book, and watching the documentary, it puts a face to all the names in the book. And one of the men, Walt Cowell, was like the pack horse. He carried like his pack weighed like 300 pounds or something.
What?
Yeah, that he carried around with him when they were.
Jesus.
He's the one with the crazy 80s hair.
Oh.
Like his hair is amazing. Like amazing. And
I have to watch this.
Yeah, it's like total 80s rocker hair. And he's out in like the Arctic tundra in this hair.
Carrying 300 pounds on his back.
I'm like, man, that is like totally his hair is the 80s.
The epitome of the 80s.
One of the doctors who was there, like, doing x-rays on the second trip, awesome mustache.
Nice.
Like, handlebar mustache, amazing. Like, I totally had a crush on the mustache guy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, man, he's got a good stash. It's kind of cute. I have crushing on a nerd crush, you know.
Yeah.
But, the second expedition, they brought a photographer. His last name is Spenceley, and he's a professor of physics in Canada, the Ottawa, I think, college. And he also was a forensic photographer. And he was descended from John Hartnell. Was his like 3 generations uncle.
Oh,
like he was descended from him, so he was like his ancient relative.
That's cool.
Like, and not even that ancient, like 3 generations. It's not that much if you think about it. So that's just kind of cool that he was there.
Part of that.
Yeah, for the exhumation of him. And it's not, they had to dig to find the information, but when they were digging up Hartnell, he was only 30 inches below. And while they're digging, they're finding like pieces of wood and bits of cloth. And they're like, this is not a good sign.
No.
They're like, somebody's been here before us. They get down to the coffin, and it's cracked, and it looked like it had been pried up. And they're like, what? They're like really nervous.
Right.
And there was a strong smell with him, like a decomp smell.
Right, because he had been messed with.
And he only had one thing that's crazy too, these men that they exhumed had eyeballs.
Oh!
Yeah, you could see what color their eyes were which is insane.
You know.
Because they're 150 years old and they still have eyeballs.
Yeah. Carl Tansler would have loved Tansler would have loved to freeze his love and keep her eyeballs.
Yeah, but she wouldn't have been able to move around. She would have been rock hard ice.
Yeah, that's true. He wouldn't like that.
But like when they would do the autopsies, they had to wait for their organs to thaw out because they were frozen.
Oh
solid.
yeah.
So they'd use hot water and cold water to like thaw them out.
Right.
So they could... And when they dug him up, he had been autopsied. Like he had a Y incision. Heart now.
Oh.
And that's like unheard of.
Right.
They didn't do that back then, really.
So
like,
who got him?
Something happened. Like on this ship, they're like, why did they feel like they needed to autopsy him?
Yeah.
Like,
trying to figure out what's wrong.
Right. They're like, it's within the first year, and they're like, why are these young men that are strong?
Yeah, they're young, they're healthy.
And same thing with him. With, as John Torrington, he was emaciated. He was like under 80 pounds. They had no food in his stomach or his intestinal tract. They had also, Beattie did research and discovered that on one of the rescue trips, somebody went back there and exhumed him.
Oh.
They dug him up, and in his nose, he was 6 feet deep too. Oh. But when they reburied him,
they couldn't.
Didn't,
they're like, I'm not
why,
digging.
They just like didn't put him in as deep, and then they buried him back up. So yeah, it's like emaciated, no food.
He's been sick for a long time.
Yep.
Why?
And the last man, William Brain, he was the oldest of the three. They exhumed him, and like he had like a cavity in one of his teeth, and it was just like he was tall. He was like he was just under 6 feet tall.
Wow. That's tall for then.
And he was under 90 pounds.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he emaciated, no food in his stomach. They conjectured, like, after doing tests because they took tests of all the organ tissue and the bones, because they needed to know what was going on. And these men had all kinds of diseases.
I'm sure.
They think that William Brain and Hartnell both had tuberculosis and likely died from pneumonia.
Oh.
But there were other things that were probably going on as well.
Also.
Like something that drove them to the
I was going to say, get pneumonia.
Right, and it's like the cascade of symptoms. Like something else could have sped up the
process,
yeah. You know? They tested all the bones, and all of them had lead levels that were 90 times the normal amount.
Holy crap.
90 times.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. The examination, Beattie's a brilliant man, and he's like scouring all the old tent sites that they found from the camps with these men. And he's finding the discarded tins, because they're in a pile, they're rusty, but he's finding them, and he's looking at all these tins that are left behind, and they all had thick, sloppily soldered lead solder in the inside of the cans. So you can look and see huge globs of it in the inside. And they said that the lead toxicity would have severely impaired their decision making.
Because it messed with their brains and stuff.
Like, why they all have preserved food? Why are they all getting so sick? Why are they emaciated? Why are they weak? It's because of their lead poison.
Yeah.
Like, every time they'd eat, they're slowly
killing themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just horrible to think of. Like, this miracle invention is what's killing them. The one that's supposed to keep them alive for 3 years is the one that killed them slowly.
That's awful.
Actually, quicker than
what they should have died. But the thing is funny, because you think back of how you said that, the government paid this company to do it. They did it because they were the cheapest. They did it cheaply, messily, to get it done on Speedy, and that they cut costs, and that's what happened. You killed all your men.
And they said that they had also found, like, some of the first expeditions that found the cans that were looked like they were going to explode.
Oh, they weren't sealed properly.
Putrefied inside the cans. So it's either the food's putrefied, which sounds horrible.
Right.
Or
you're going to get lead poisoning.
Lead poisoning and all of it.
So you're screwed no matter what happens.
But, I mean, it does explain why they were dragging silk handkerchiefs and...
just weird shit.
100 pounds.
Because they're all messed up in the head.
Yeah, and then they end up eating each other. And then they are going to the river. And then the boat's facing the wrong direction, like they're going back to the ship. And it makes, like, the whole, like... what lead toxicity does to you, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
These men were
and you think after a while they start to realize maybe our food's killing us. That's why there's so many tins not eaten. That's why they start eating each other. Because they realize the food might be doing this to us.
And a lot of the earlier expeditions that were sent to try to rescue them.
Yeah.
A lot of the Inuits said, "Oh, we won't eat." Well, would you eat with us? Oh, we don't eat that. Like, we ate that before it made us really sick. So, like, they understood
that was killing you.
We're not eating the food that's in that can because it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Like, they understood.
Well, and plus they are used to eating very fresh food, never cooked. If you eat a canned thing alone would make you sick, let alone putting lead in it, which they're not used to being exposed to anything like that.
Right.
So can you imagine, it probably made them very sick, one helping of it.
They probably couldn't digest it.
No. It's all processed. They're not used to it.
It probably made them feel wicked sick. A couple of interesting things is 3 or 4 years ago, AMC had a series called The Terror.
Oh, a TV show.
It was based on this Franklin expedition.
Neat.
It's fictionalized, obviously, but they did use, like, real elements from
I love that kind of
what
stuff.
they knew, but they made it supernatural. So
oh, yeah.
It's really, I highly recommend it. It's very entertaining to watch. And I actually I watched the first couple episodes back when it was on, and I kind of lost track of it,
Right.
And after doing this research, I'm like, I gotta watch that show, because it was really about this. And
that's so cool.
I really enjoyed it.
How many seasons? Was it a mini-series, or was it?
It had 2 seasons, and the first season was the Franklin expedition, and the second season is, like, in Japan. It's like a different, I think it's also based on, like, a
true story.
A strange
occurrence.
Happening. Yeah, strange disappearance, probably.
Oh, cool.
I think it's about haunting, I think.
Neat.
I didn't watch that one yet, but...
Cool.
But yeah, it's really, you should watch it. And they actually use the letter that they found in the cairn. They use a copy of that in the show. Like, they show
cool.
it, and I'm like, hey, that's what it actually looks like.
That's cool.
And it shows the first letter, and they put it in the can, and then they all get killed, and then they go back a year or 2 later, and they
follow up on it,
and then they write around the edge.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, good on his wife for keeping it going, because this probably never would have been done. We wouldn't have known.
There's so many, like, weird stories, because, like, so many people searched for them because they wanted the reward.
They wanted the money, yeah.
Right? And there were Inuits that told a lot of stories, and a lot of it is told in their native language and
translated poorly, maybe.
Right, because some of the words that they use don't have a translation.
Mm-hmm.
It means something like the sunrise or something weird. But they told a story of where they think John Franklin was buried in, like, a tomb.
Oh,
where there's rocks in front of him, like he was put in the rock.
Okay,
and then the
sealed
entrance
up.
Was sealed up. So, like, find a cave, you might find him.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably would bury logbooks with him,
That's true, and you find more information about it.
Because, I mean, it's so desolate there's not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's no trees. It's not
it's hiding somewhere.
It makes sense that the Inuit wouldn't eat cooked meat because they have nothing to cook it with.
Yeah, everything's frozen solid. Or gravel.
Yeah,
you don't have any.
There's no trees. So
crazy.
Also, on a more modern note, in September of the year 2014, they found the Erebus.
They did?
Yes. In the Parks Canada, they went out and they searched in all the different areas and they actually found it.
So cool.
And then 2 years later in 2016, they found the Terror. So both of the ships have been found.
Are they exhumed?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But nobody has been allowed to
go
anything
in
with them.
Okay.
But they think they have taken some, like, underwater photographs,
okay,
like, with drones.
Cool.
Of the pictures of, like, you can see, like, shells with cans.
Oh, wow.
It's so cool. I'm like, it's just cool that they found them. They had to be there. Where else would they
Yeah, they have to be.
I mean, I guess feasibly, if they were still seaworthy and the ice thawed, they could float out to sea. But...
Just like in the end of Goonies when the One Eye Billy's ship comes out.
But it's just like all the accounts from the Inuits said they sank. So they knew. They said, "Oh, it was there," and then we went back and it had sunk, and there was a lot of debris up on the beach, like boxes and crates and things. So I mean, they pilfered all that. Like, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
This is
their stuff. Territory. Yeah.
So
cool.
Kudos to them. Don't eat the canned food.
Don't eat the canned food. Whatever you do.
And something cool too is recently there was a book written by Michael Palin from Monty Python's Flying Circus. He's a comedian.
Yeah.
Wrote a book called Erebus.
Oh.